rusty Mopars. Who's ever seen a rusty Mopar before? Living up here, you see a lot of them. This car I thought was really, really good other than the trunk floor. I found a few surprises. Pulled the back window out. I guess it shouldn't have surprised me, but it's definitely some stuff. I got to make all this. That's going to be a little bit of a task, but we'll show you some of that. And then this piece I knew was bad, and these corner pieces I knew was bad, so we just bought the patch panels, which was easy. And now I'm into the trunk floor. And the trunk floor I knew was horrifying. The neat thing about this, though, is you see how bad this trunk floor is. I mean, this part I just took the gas tank out, stepped on it, it was gone. Like, that's all there is to taking it out. But look at the frame rail. Look how nice it is. And that, I mean, all the structure stuff is in nice shape. Now this here, this is another problem. This, I cannot buy a taillight panel for this car. They don't have one. So, I'm going to have to do a lot of making, which is another problematic patch. This up here is a little complicated, and this lower piece, what we'll do, we'll seam it here, right at the base of that, right there. So you got a straight angle down, and then in. These little steps here, I'll eliminate, I guess. I don't see any reason they have to be there. So, that's loosely the game plan. Although I do have to come up with something with these braces. I may separately bend these when I get into this. But, anyway, that's after this. So this little deal here, you can see over here where I've been drilling these spot welds. And I use this little deal. And you can see you just work that in there. I just kind of rock it around a bit, go through each one. And we'll have all this, you can see all that ready to be patched. It's joined onto every damn thing. This back here where it's rusty, I'll just clean this with a grinder. I'm not going to try to deal with spot welds back there. I'll just grind it off, basically. And then the, up in here, I've got to split it at this factory seam up here, which I'm really looking forward to that. We'll figure that out as we go. And along these wheel wells, we may end up snipping this down with a torch as close as we can get it and then cleaning it up with a grinder. I'm not sure, or we may drill spot welds. As you work on this, you just kind of figure out what the hell you're doing as you go. And do the best you can to get it as clean as you can, because the less you damage like your parent metal, the better. Because otherwise you got to fix all that. I drilled these holes in it. I'm going to have to weld those up and do a little cleanup work here. I mean, it is what it is. You technically you're supposed to be able to just prick punch the center of that. It just wanders all over the place every time I try that, so I drill a hole. Or drill a good like pilot that doesn't go all the way through, that'll hold. But I find on this big cutter, I find a hole seems to work the best. Otherwise you're just chasing it, you can't hold it. So I'll get some more of this off and then we'll see what we do next.
What you up to there?
Fixing everything that I tore up, taking out the trunk floor. But part of the game, you know, it's not held together delicate.
So what did you have? Oh yeah, you had all those drill holes.
This is all spot welds. But you were giving me crap about all the holes I made in the new panel. This is why. I mean, and frankly, unibody car, everything is sort of dependent on something else. That frame by itself is probably pretty worthless, you know.
Well, this isn't even really unibody. Unibody's the bolt, they bolt and unbolt. This is like a.
What do you mean unibody's bolt and unbolt?
Well, I mean like a Camaro, a subframe unbolts out of it.
Well, that's a subframe car. Unibody car is fully welded in like this one.
Which is like how the new cars are done. They're actually pretty ahead of their time.
They were ahead of their time.
Not that that's a good thing.
Not that that's a good thing. But anyway, so I've kind of butchered things here a little bit, but now I'm in the process of trying to just clean this up. Where I went through with my spot welder or my spot weld driller and stuff. I'll get that cleaned up, and then everything's kind of ground up clean now. Everything's ready to go to drop the new one in. New one sitting there. Now, bad news on the new one is it doesn't fit through this hole. So the new one is now a 2-piece trunk floor, which will get welded right over the frame rail, so the weld won't show from underneath the car. Unfortunately, I'll have to finish the top.
Well, I mean,
I was hoping to avoid, but
at this point, it's also a Jesus panel. It's so holy.
Well, those will also be filled full of weld, so you know.
You guys gonna burn some wire?
I'm gonna burn some wire. You know where to find me for the next little while. But it's gonna make a hell of a nice job compared to what it was, the poor old thing.
Sure.
And that's gonna be easy compared to my next step. Because after that's done, then I have to really start on the hard stuff.
Yeah, we've made bent preliminary panels to.
Yeah, but like this stuff. Upper edge, I'm gonna have to just plain get a spoon in there and tap it over and make that.
Yeah. The roughest part is here where it actually meets to the trunk floor. As you
I'm
can
not
see,
sure that I almost think I'd rather make this down here than this up here.
This is the old Swiss cheese.
I wish they reproduced the taillight panel for this thing.
Actually, if you had the taillight panel,
if I had the taillight panel, I could put the trunk floor in one piece.
Yeah.
If I'd taken the taillight panel out of this, or had a new one, or something good to replace it with, this would have solved all my problems in one shot.
Actually, would have done a nicer job than having to, put everything together.
Hell of a lot nicer. But there is no panel available for this. So, I mean, I haven't been able to find like a used one, and used one of these things. I'm going to be drilling spot welds forever and cleaning that up. And
yeah, it's no better.
No, and we'll get this nice. I mean, we'll get some. We'll do it right. It'll be okay when it's done, but. Just sucks, but anyway, whatever. Part of the game. So I'll keep welding here, and then we'll start fitting the new panel in. I've had the new panel in it, set everything in, got it all figured out, marked it where I need to drill it, and did all that. So, I mean, everything fits. Just got to put her in. I'll get it in here. I'll put it in place with a few self-tappers to hold it down nice and tight. So when I'm doing these welds, everything's right in place. And then just pull the self-tappers out and weld those holes up. That's how I usually do it. I find it's way easier than trying to mess with it any other way that I've seen. So, and that's that. So back to work. Well, she's in there. Started in there. So, like I say, I was going to use these screws. I got her set, and kind of everything sort of good. Don't use your hand for a hammer because that doesn't work out so well. But anyway, yeah. So I'll go down through there, and I'll just kind of spot all this. I'm gonna go up and screw that front end down and get that right. And then I'll just start plug welding, and plug welding, and plug welding, and plug welding. And then I've got the side frame to go in here. A lot of that I'll try to spot weld in so it looks factory. And then this side is the ultimate back order, so hopefully I can find one somewhere, because apparently my back order just got pushed another month from good old Summit, so I'm gonna hunt for that. Well, it's been a long day, but it's starting to look like a trunk floor now. This obviously here is not dealt with, so that's tomorrow's project. Get that dealt with. Yeah, so that piece over there I still don't have. What the heck am I going to do? That there is in. That quarter at the bottom's all tied in, other than I got to take the wheel off after and make those pieces in there, which shouldn't be too big of a deal. A lot simpler than what I got to deal with back here. But I think this is my next project. And then I can get the gas tank back under and have the car movable. The rest of it I can do with the gas tank in. But this bad boy is going to be welded right over the filler neck, so I need to get that part done. But anyway, that's where we are on the project. And we'll see how we do on her tomorrow. I haven't been very good about my rust repair video here. Been busy, but kind of see what we had done. I think I got shots of this before. So we fixed up all this upper rail. You can get a shot down here of the lower stuff. Get it from in here. We remade all this piece in here.
You can see it all from the bottom.
Yeah.
Better, probably.
I don't know, let me show it from the top there. So all this is now sealed up, pretty close to factory. This piece on that side over there is back ordered, so I took a guess making this corner filler. But I made it from this one, so it should be good. Unless Dodge made the two sides different, I don't know. So then, big surprise we came into on this job, and it shouldn't have been, just, I guess, my wishful thinking, was this back window. So now I'm in the process of trying to fix that. So you can see all the holes up there. And you can see the other side, what I started to do. So fortunately, the skin is good to the edge. It's just all in here under the window. So my corner is legit, so it's keeping my shape. And we bent an angle the right depth. And now I'm just going around it with a shrinker stretcher and slowly fitting it. So you can see that curvature kind of starts here slowly. So I've marked it for slow shrink and then a sharper shrink here. I'll start that little section there and kind of see where it goes. And the other trick is, because it rolls like this way, I've got to put it in the stretcher after and stretch this so it stays with the roll of the roof. And then I'll plug weld this with, I'll tack it all. I'll plug weld that with steel wire, and I'll probably use that bronze wire like you see there to weld to the skin. So this little tool here will save your butt. I like this thing. When you get into jobs like this, instead of making a bunch of hash marks and having all that crap to weld up, I just shrink it with this. You gotta kind of work your way slow and keep checking your fit. So I'm gonna do it purposefully not enough, so I don't go too far. But the good news is, if you do go too far, you can put it back in the stretcher side and fix some of your screw up to a point. If you do it too many times, you break the steel. But if you break the steel, you just weld it up the same as somebody does it, cuts hash marks in it. So again, not the end of the world. The beauty of steel is you can screw up a lot and keep working. Well, you can see I'm just lacking a little further up here, just a little bit of curvature. It's a little flat. Obviously need more through here. This is pretty good, this section. But, so I'm just gonna give it, I'll probably start with this down here. Try and get that fitting a little bit better. And this is just back and forth and back and forth and back and forth till you get it. There's no, I guess I could make a template if I was doing a number of them, but this is probably the only one of these I'm going to do. Normally a car like this, there, see I screwed up a little bit. I actually overbent it now. So I'll need to stretch it back out there just a little bit. I need to bend more this way. Yeah, normally a car like this, I would put a new roof skin on it, new quarters, and fix the whole problem. So you see the stretcher side just kind of brings you back. I'll go back and recheck. Make sure I haven't done too much of that. I need to re-stretch it a little more right there. It's got a little sharp. You can kind of see it too.
Yep.
A little sharp. I'll stretch it there. Just mark it with my thumb.
Looks good visually now.
I'm squeezing it kind of gentle there. I'm not really putting a whole bunch of pressure on it to stretch it. Yeah, that fits pretty nice now. So now I need to come shrink this way. So, and I probably should cut this somewhere in here just to make life a lot easier, because if I try to do this piece all the way down, oh, I may. It's shorter on this side. I'll probably start going all the way down, but we'll see what we want to do here. This is always decisions on the fly. So there we go. And give that a shot. See what we got. This is just part of the game on this kind of thing. You can buy a roof skin for this car, so. Apparently the only thing you can't buy for the damn thing is the taillight panel. Which is the part I really wish I could have bought, because I've got a hell of a lot of work. And this stuff, I got a bunch of work. And I had to cut my trunk floor in half to get the trunk floor in. If I could have got a taillight panel, it would have saved me all that time. Would have been cheaper to buy the panel than to do the labor on this. But I would have been doing the customer a favor by buying a panel. But it ain't the way it works. So, okay, so I need more in here, which I knew I did, but again, keep checking. Otherwise, you're having to stretch it like I did before. You see, it works. It does a nice job. So I gotta do a little more right in here. And at this point, it starts to change quick. So you gotta kind of watch what you're doing. So my fit's pretty good through here. I'm going to eventually end up having to come back up here just a bit. I'll probably work back and forth through this little section here right now. But that's just, think your way through it. Take your time. And the thing of it is, a lot of people won't tackle this kind of job. They say they don't have the skill set, but that's a cop-out. Because the only way I got the skill set was by doing it. So, I mean, everybody can, if you work at it, you can get it. You can learn it. And the best part of these project cars, especially for somebody younger, is every skill you learn on this is something you might be able to use later in life. Unless you're smarter than me and go work in an office somewhere. But I gotta do a little more right there. A little more in there. But it's not a simple fit, but I mean, it's nothing anybody can't do. It's just a matter of taking your time. Welding the thing in is a little trickier because you don't want to warp your roof skin. But again, take your time with it. Anybody can do it. As long as you don't get it too hot. See, now I'm getting there, but I may end up having to shorten my piece just a little bit up there, which is no big deal. It's actually starting to fit fairly decent. Then I'm going to have to bake some more bends down here, but I'm concentrating on this area. I need to sharpen it just a hair right there. And then I'll come down here and bend it down here a little bit. So I'll probably do this. I don't need much, very, very little. And then I need to start arcing it down here a little bit. And when I get this done, I'll start working the other arc, the stretch part. But that's pretty gentle. Like, we don't do a lot. Try that. And it's surprising, like, it doesn't look like much. That last little bunch I did was pretty gentle. It doesn't look like much, but it makes quite a difference on the body. When you hold it up against the hard edge, you did more than you think you did. Okay, so now I'm at the point of having to cut this thing to length to see what I've actually done here. Because I've got to start dropping it down in here. So it's going to be pretty short, this one. It'll be up here. So I'll chop that bad boy off. And then we'll see how she actually fits. Then we'll know. The reason I'll use the bronze up there is because bronze is really soft to grind. I can kind of get a nice edge. And the silicon bronze, it's not like a torch bronze where you get all the problem with flux. Although torch bronze, I have nothing against it. I've welded a lot of cars with torch bronze back in the day. If you sandblast that flux off it, it has a bad name, but it's the flux. It'll lift your fill. If you sandblast that flux off it, there's nothing wrong with that. I had cars we did, you know, in the 80s, and they're still looking good. Full of bronze. But we were careful about it. See, that's a bit of a game changer. I'm telling you.
Let's start to need you to do your stretching now.
I start to need to do my stretching. Actually, it fits not bad. I need just a little more right there.
You can really see how much stretching you have to do.
I'm going to stretch it first because I'm going to see what that does. But, yeah, there's your stretch from there over. And you, like Ty says, you can really see it. So, I'm going to mark that. So we're pretty even up till here. And then it's like a slow curvature all the way. So we're just going to do a very gentle stretch all the way across.
It's going from a curve to a compound curve.
It's a compound curve, yeah. But you got to start. You got to start with your, ooh, I think I overdid it in Denver.
I don't think so.
Again, if you do, you can see that.
Yeah, you can see it.
If you do, you can put it back in the shrinker jaw and undo what you did that's too much. Now that changed everything.
Yeah, now you gotta.
Now my whole bend here is jacked up. Now I can maybe do this. Yeah, see there. Actually, that's fair, isn't it?
Yeah, that fit in there really good all of a sudden.
Well, shit. Huh. I'll be dipped. So what I might do in this case is what it's done, it's pulled this angle in a little bit. So I'm away from the roof because I've shrunk this. It's pulled this angle in. So I think what I'm going to have to do now is I'll get it tacked in and I'll have to push that back to the roof skin there. I don't think there's anything I'm going to do in the shrinker jaw. See, I've got like an 1/8 of an inch piece right here. The other thing I got to do is cut this to length now because I've moved it over a hair. If I get that squeezed up, actually I think when it's up under the skin,
yeah,
it'll be fine. So now I have to. I'll mark this one and see how much I got to cut off. About 1/4 of an inch.
Yeah, I'd say.
I'm just going to take a guesstimate on it. If I miss it,
fill it with welder wire.
Fill it with wire. But I'll try cutting a little 1/4 inch piece off here and we'll try it. There. Now then, again, you're like, we're not restoring this car. We are just fixing it up. We're trying to keep this on something of a budget. It's not owned by somebody that wants to put $300,000 into it. They want to actually drive it, you know, and get it back out in the real world. And there's no point in doing, you know, I'm ready to weld this on. So I cleaned it all up. Ground all the old metal off of this flange, cut this flush to the corner. So my shape hasn't changed, so I don't have to really do anything in terms of test fitting trim or anything yet. I will before I paint it, but it'll be a light grind or whatever if I have to do something. I gotta push this in nice and tight. And I'll spot it everywhere just with steel wire, because I have changed the wiring machines, a pain in the butt. But I want to plug weld these with steel wire. The silicon bronze doesn't seem exceptional for plug welding, so do it with this. What happens is if I squeeze this down first, because that angle is kind of worked in, you know, it's over a 90 now from me shrinking. If I clamp this first and plug weld it, it pulls it away from the body. So I want to get everything packed tight to the body. Then I'll clamp it and I'll plug weld it. I'm trying to get it really tight. Pack it in there good, you know. I want my trim to fit when I'm done, so it's got to be the right shape. What happens is here, you get greedy welding this and you warp it, then you're in for it. Because roofs are just a shitter to straighten, so really be patient. So I'll just spot and I'll just keep spotting. Even with the silicon bronze, it's a little cooler than this, but I'll still be mighty careful. Because if I'm not mighty careful, I'm going to pay the price. Ideally, I don't want to really paint most of this roof. I'm just going to fog green in these areas, and then I'm going to put a semi-gloss clear on the car, is the plan. Just kind of blend in our work areas. Because like I said, we're not restoring this thing. We're just fixing it up. If I was restoring it, really restoring it, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I'd hang a full set of quarters on it, and skin, and go to town. But right there, my piece was rocked in a little bit. So I went ahead and I clamped it to try to pull it back. So I'm just using whatever I have to use to get the job done, to get the thing to sit on there tight. So now I'm going to plug weld these. So I'll clamp this between a couple of them. And now these you want to burn in really hot, because you can fill just the top of this real easy and not get your parent metal, and then you get nothing. You don't have a weld. So I'm burning away a little bit of my outside metal, so I know I'm plenty hot. I know I'm getting into the bottom. I just stop and let it cool a little bit and then hit her again. You can see that. So that's like, I mean, everything is nice now. So I just work my way all the way across. I'll do this side, do the same thing over there, and I'll come back to it with some silicon bronze, and we'll finish everything.
Just we'll check it out when you're at the silicon bronze stage.
Yep. Maybe we'll get some trim out and just test fit everything. Now see there, that thing screwed me. My weld cracked. So you see that pulled it. So now I just got to flex it up. There, she's back. Yep, so yeah, we'll come back to it and check her out then. Test fit molding. Oh, by God, it fits. Look at that. Turn your camera up there.
Looking really good, honestly.
Yeah, well, you should, technically. I didn't change the shape, was the idea, and I didn't.
That's looking...
I didn't know how good it fit to begin with anyway. It was so full of goop in here, and this stuff was half hanging off. So.
Yeah, that might be better than it fit stock, honestly.
Well, I don't know about stock, but when it got here, let's say it that way.
Yeah.
That worked. So I see I cleaned up these welds here. I'm starting to clean those up. And I knocked a little bit off my spots because then the bronze won't get messed. I can shape my bronze, by getting rid of that. So don't look like I got a whole lot of shaping to do, but I want a nice soft corner, and I don't want to grind it like thin, so it cracks or whatever. So that's the next step. But I'm glad to see everything fits. Just a good to double check it right now. If I did have to tap something or move something a little bit, the sooner the better.
That looks killer, man.
Yep, I think so. I'm happy with it. I haven't done that bad either. I've been a couple hours.
Yeah, tops. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be worse. That tail panel was way worse than this.
Yeah, which is,
This probably looked maybe like a worse job, but
it did.
Easy patch to make with my shrinker stretcher. And those are fairly cheap. They
Right.
sell El Cheapos. That one was
That was like an Eastwood, that one, or?
I think it was Woodward Fab.
Oh yeah, Woodward Fab. Yep.
I've had that for years. We bought that down in Carlisle. My father and I bought that. I mean, he's been gone 16 years.
Yeah.
So,
No, that's it.
I've had it.
But those things, I think, online, like Eastwood or Woodward or whatever, like you're talking $400 nowadays. Like,
I think we paid almost that back then.
yeah, I don't think they've got any more expensive. Is my point.
Maybe it's Wang Dong now, and it wasn't then. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Those same jaws and everything. Like, I mean,
Yeah, it's been a good machine.
And that thing, like, we owned it for a long time. I never really used it, and it sat here probably a year. I haven't touched it, but today it saved my ass.
Yeah.
If you need it, you need it. And
we needed it. I'm going to be needing it in the S14 also to do wheel tubs. So
yeah, I used to use it a lot in the dirt cars and stuff. But like I say, this thing, like this kind of job right here, I mean, it's not that I've ever done another 68 Coronet, so it's not like I even know what I'm doing necessarily. I've done this type of thing, but I mean, I had to learn it the first time. I've seen people. I mean, some of you guys have done it 100 times, but then some people are thinking it's some black art, which it's not. I mean, I can do it. Anybody can do it. There's nothing. You just have to. A job started, the job half finished, is what the old boys used to say, and it's true. You dive in, and you figure it out as you go. And I dive into stuff all the time and screw up halfway through it, and then figure out what I got to do to dig myself out of the hole I just dug. I mean, that's how it works. And just, hell, don't be afraid. Just dive in and do more than you know how to do, but just be willing to accept the fact that you might have screwed up here and there, and then go back and fix it. That's all that matters. If you leave it, that's not so good. But I mean, it depends what you're after. It depends on the final result you're after. I want this to look like it's still. We just pulled it out from under that tree it was sitting under for 40 years. So I don't want it perfect. I'm gonna leave the dings. I'm gonna leave the dents. Like the little stuff. But I have to fix the rust, so it needs, and I want it to look about as good as it was when Dodge made it. And if you look at the door fit and stuff on this car, it ain't great. I mean,
no.
we get fussy on these things. The car wasn't that good. I mean, it didn't fit that nice. I was more careful with this piece than the factory ever was, because I jacked this up so it actually fits the trunk lid. Because every one of these cars you see, the trunk lid's gone. And from what I could tell, because I changed this, the original one was below the trunk lid quite a bit. And when I put the new one in, it sat below the trunk lid. But the same. I jacked it up. And I stuck a floor jack in there with a hunk of wood. I just jacked it up until I could close the trunk lid, and it fit. So I was a little fussier there, but I didn't want water going in. I mean, I'm dealing with the damage of water going in, so I made that maybe a little better than it was original. But the rest of it, I just want it to look like it did. And I think it would be cool. I may actually see this thing back on the road. The last time I saw this car on the road was in the 80s. And I think probably one of the last times they ever ran it. I remember seeing it parked on the street in Sutton. I thought it was pretty cool because nobody around here really had muscle cars. And this thing, and then it sat right there in town, and everybody's drooled over it forever. And nobody can get their hands on it. Nobody can still get their hands on it. They won't sell it. But at least it's getting back on the road, which is Really good. I'm glad to see the thing. I'm glad to see it's going to go somewhere. And when it's done, it'll look all right. It's not going to look restored. It's just going to look like preserved. The interior, I'm putting fresh seat covers and door panels and everything in it because the interior
It needs it.
didn't do well.
No.
You know, the old moisture got into that pretty bad.
No, the interior suffered about as bad as the engine.
And the trunk.
And the trunk, yeah.
The damage on the car was just very isolated. But boy, where it was damaged, it was damaged.
Yep.
But fortunately, the bones are still there. So, won't be long. All right. Well, I like to keep the metal kind of cool. What I'm doing, I'm just spotting, and I keep going back and filling in between. So I'm getting close to having things sort of sealed up now. But I'll just keep working my way through. I'm thinking the silicone bronze doesn't pull as much as the steel wire either. I mean, so far I've got no warpage. I want to keep it that way. But we'll just keep stitching until we get her done. I'll blow it off. Every time I make a pass, I go between every weld and I blow it down until it's cool. And then I come back, start hitting between welds again. I skip a few and then, and then hit them again. This thing has kind of a crown both ways, so it's got a fair bit of strength in it. I can get a little more heat in this panel than I could in like a really flat panel. Or if it had a ding in it or something, that ding that heat would just follow it. I mean, in some cases, if I'm on a real sensitive panel, I'm going to make a tack and I'm going to hit the tack. But I can get away with a little bit of hell on this, which, again, it's not as hot as steel. It's a little more forgiving than steel. Steel filler wire. So that's why I'm putting a fair bit of heat to it, but it's really good. No problem just taking it. So, and then of course this ridge is quite strong too, but what I'm worried about is it traveling that way. So, because if I get stupid with it, I can start running warps. You'll stand back and look at it, and it'll, even if it's not big, it's still a curse. You got to work your way through. So the less work I can leave myself when I'm done this, the better. So I'm just going to be careful to work my way through it, and then I'll grind it. And I'm sure there's going to be a few spots I would have missed, because spotting like this, it's pretty easy to end up with a little hole you didn't hit or whatever. And I'll just go back through, hit those, and then touch it back up with a grinder. We're done. So, won't be long.